Sawyer Johnson. Followed by Doyle Beck. Followed by Parson Ripka, I think it is.
Do I talk?
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Sawyer Johnson.
Could you pull the microphone down so we can hear you? So the whole world can hear you.
My legal name is Sawyer Johnson.
Go ahead with your testimony.
Greetings, Chairperson, members of the House State Affairs Committee, and people of Idaho. My legal name is Sawyer Johnson, but I identify as Oliver Simon. I am 16 years old and transgender. Upon coming out in 7th grade, I was stabbed. Due to my identity, this occurrence was merely brushed aside as self-inflicted harm. At the age of 13, I was cornered in a public women's restroom. Regardless that I was assigned female at birth, the way I dressed and acted alienated me for being too masculine. In this restroom, I was repeatedly hit, bruises covered more than half of my body, and I vomited multiple times. Within the church, I was sexually assaulted. This was also due to my gender identity. The people involved were both my age and adult. I was told I should be punished because of my immorality, and my identity could be all right as long as I never acted on it. But identity is a basic building block of each of us. It cannot simply be dismissed. These are few of the many discriminatory situations I have encountered, and almost non-existent in comparison to the stories I have heard from both family, friends, and acquaintances. Being born and raised in Nampa, Idaho, has taught me many things about the values and ideas of our country. These include the ideas of equality and inalienable rights. I have learned about suffering, achievement, and freedom, and I have been taught to look ahead, respecting the present moment but striving for a better future. It is simple to speak of change. However, the occurrence of change holds more complexity. Throughout American history, the idea of freedom and right has been discovered, rediscovered, and redefined. Though its basis is simple, we are all human. We are a part of this country, and people my age are the upcoming generations. We ask to have the protection of these 4 words: gender identity and sexual orientation. Nothing more, nothing less. Thank you for this hearing, for hearing me and those present, and that was a wonderful word to use. And for considering those of the voices who could not be present today. Please add me, my friends, and my family. Thank you.
Are there questions? Thank you for coming today. Doyle Beck, followed by Parson Ripka, I think it is. And then we will hear from Cameron McCowan. Welcome to the committee. State your name, who you represent.
Thank you. My name is Doyle Beck, Honorable Chairman and members of the committee. I'm from Idaho Falls. I am a father of 4, grandfather of 17, and I've been an employer for the last 40 years. I've owned and operated upwards of 20, 25 businesses in Idaho, Utah, Nevada, and Arizona. I've employed several hundreds of people, including those that identify in several variations of sexual identity. I would like to go on record as opposing this legislation and ask that this committee vote to not send it to the floor of the House. First, I'm somewhat offended that this bill has been introduced and seriously being debated. It implies that Idahoans are nasty people. that we discriminate against our neighbors unless the government somehow comes in and intervenes and straightens us out. I'm not saying that discrimination doesn't exist, but I am saying it's very minimal. Second, I personally disagree with discrimination. I think it harms society. I'm also experienced with discrimination. When I graduated from high school, our superintendent introduced us as the hairiest graduating class in Madison County. I had shoulder-length hair. My church discriminated against me. The police discriminated against me. My father asked me why I wanted to look like a woman. I got into the construction business. That was in 1975. Try to negotiate and introduce yourself and work with state highway engineers with shoulder-length hair. And other suppliers and subcontractors. However, I would tell you that in the seeds of opposition, the seeds of challenges, the seeds of temporary defeat, you can also find the seeds of success. Yes, I had to lose a little pride. Today, my hair is a little shorter. And I feel like I gained from the experience, even though I didn't like it, and I don't think people should be discriminated against. But you can always make lemonade out of lemons. Government action is the worst possible response that you could have to the minimal amount of discrimination that we deal with in the state of Idaho, particularly as employers. What you will actually find, the unintended consequence, is that if you pass this law, you're going to incentivize employers to discriminate. I speak from experience. When there is a protected class, we shy away from the employment there. You have to, because of the potential liabilities that may come. Most employers are not going to admit that to you. But we don't like problems. We don't deal with problems. We want success. And most employees probably never know that it happens. But you'll actually harm those that's trying to be protected. Because employers will shy away from that compared to hiring someone that's not in a protected class. There are some employers that will discriminate. It's going to happen. Hopefully they learn from their experiences and they also find seeds of success and quit. But changing a law and trying to force that will not be successful. Employers who intend to discriminate will find a way around it or they'll hide it. You will not eliminate it by law. They'll simply hide those true intentions. Likewise, there's a few bad apples in the employee community, in the protected class, who will be terminated, maybe for some very legitimate reasons, and they will utilize this law to take advantage and get even with their employer. As you know, I'm opposed to discrimination. However, if I'm asked to produce a product or produce a service that violates my conscience, that I consider reprehensible, I will refuse. If I'm required by law or forced to provide a product of which I'm opposed, I will probably close that business and I will go somewhere that I feel that I have freedom and liberty. The direction that I feel like we're headed in taking an appetite, a passion, or a desire and issue a special right is the wrong way to go. Where would we stop? I read with interest in the paper the gentleman from New Jersey who is now planning on, and that's the reason he's in New Jersey, that they went to New Jersey because it's legal there, but he's planning on marrying his daughter. Is that a sexual orientation? We really don't know. We don't have a definition. I'd also submit to you that I think this is more about marriage than it is about sexual identity. If you look at the court cases across the state, every court who has overturned a marriage amendment has turned to and pointed to laws exactly like this one to justify their overturning of the constitutional amendment. I thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Are there questions? Doesn't look like it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question.
Take that back. Looks like there is a question. Representative Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Beck,
Yes.
you mentioned that there was no association about a definition with sexual orientation. Are you aware that the Human Rights Commission uses the federal definition for sexual orientation, including the military?
No,
Beck?
Mr. Chairman. No, I'm not familiar with what they utilize.
Okay. That's my question, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beck. Parson, Ripka. I'm probably not saying the last name correctly. Or maybe so. Followed by Cameron McCowan, followed by Chick Hylason. Please state your name for the record.
I'm Parson Wraith of Kuski, Idaho. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I urge you to vote no on this bill. I'm a Bible-based Christian pastor who affirms the teachings of Jesus the Christ. I come to you today as a pastor, a pastoral counselor, and one who is concerned for the well-being of churches, Christians, children, families, and businesses across the state of Idaho. Adding wording as proposed would violate the laws of America, Idaho state law, and most importantly, the precepts of Yahweh God himself. The preamble of the Idaho State Constitution reads, "We, the people of the state of Idaho, grateful to Almighty God for our freedom, to secure its blessings and promote our common welfare, do establish this Constitution." Section 1 of the state constitution reads that all men have certain inalienable rights, among which are enjoying life, liberty, pursuing happiness, and security and safety. Along with these mentions, God is specifically referenced in no less than 18 Idaho state statutes. This bill unfairly violates the rights, life, liberty, happiness, and safety of people of faith. Speaking of law, it would be peculiarly improper not to specify the laws of nature's God. Beginning in the book of Genesis, Yahweh God created man and woman to be complementary, yet uniquely separate. And while some cherry-pick portions of the Bible to make it align with personal preference, the suggested added words are clearly contrary to biblical law, the laws of Almighty God, which this nation and state were founded upon. The suggested additional words would only cause confusion and unrest in Idaho. As evidence of this, black pastors across the country are outraged that some are comparing sexual rights to the civil rights movement that outlawed discrimination against human conditions of which victims were born into without choice. I have personally helped numerous victims which have been forced to do things against their will. And that occurs when words like these are imputed upon them. It was said before that pastors would not be affected by these words. But that wasn't so in Houston, Texas, when pastors were subpoenaed because of their opposition to this type of legislation. We have some newspaper people among us here today. A newspaper editor in Iowa with multiple awards was fired for expressing his religious beliefs regarding marriage on his personal blog. Business owners in Iowa faced legal action and violent threats because they refused to rent out their wedding venue to homosexuals. You folks have heard about the Colorado baker today, but you've not heard about the one who is facing legal action and violent threats, no violent threats, legal action because she is refusing a customer's request to put a homosexual slur on a Bible-shaped cake. These laws breed confusion. And these are only a few of the many instances of confusion and threats of violence created by a very minute group of boisterous activists as a result of the suggested wording. The proposed wording is profoundly contrary and incompatible with the laws of Almighty God and all but a very, very small minority. As I have shown, not only would the state of Idaho suffer economically because of these words, but most importantly, by implementing these words into law, the state of Idaho would be placing itself at odds with God, the United States Constitution, and all but a very minute portion of this state's population. There have been some sad stories here today. And I feel for these people. I've devoted my life to helping people. But like some of you folks, I'm a white male, as you can see. And like you, I've had people that have not liked me. I'll bet you have had people that have not liked you. As has been said here before, you cannot legislate kindness. To many of these stories, as sad as they are, there are more points than what meets the eye. The question was asked earlier with the previous speaker, do you consider your religion better than mine? Well, the definition of religion is a system, set, or collection of beliefs. And that is what homosexuality is, and transgender lifestyles. And so under the American Constitution, I would have to say no. Based on that, my religion is not better than anyone else's, but no one else's is better than mine. And I don't care to be placed underneath preferences that don't need to occur. I thank you for your time today.
Are there questions? Seeing none, thank you, sir. I think we got one before you, Jake. Here's Cameron McCowan, is it?
Yes, sir.
Cameron McCowan, and then followed by Chick Hylason, followed by Kevin Snell.
Good morning. My name's Cameron McCowan. I'm a heterosexual. I am a business owner, and I'm a Christian. I grew up in a conservative Pentecostal denomination in the South. I remained in that denomination until I was in my early 20s. Then I joined a non-denominational church here where I attend services today. One of the reasons I changed was related to the LGBT issues and my growing understanding of them. I used to associate the word sexual preference with lesbians and gays because I thought it was a preference, it was a choice. But now I know many people, Christian and otherwise, who are LGBT. I can tell you that I look up to many of them because their character, honor, and integrity. And I'm sorry for ever having made that judgment in the first place. As I mentioned, I'm a business owner. I own Potbelly Deli over in Meridian, hire 4 people. It violates my rights, right, for you to update the Human Rights Act, doesn't it? It restricts my free will to fire whoever I want. We make our laws based on detriments to human well-being and violations of free will. When the two cross, we typically choose the thing that preserves human well-being, even at the restriction of free will. It's why a robber can't rob a store, even if he wants to, for example. We're concerned for the well-being of the store owner, store customers, and others in that case, even at the restriction of the free will of the robber. We're concerned for the well-being of members of the LGBT community standing before you here today. Week after week after week, we hear of another person taking his own life or her own life because of the shame they feel in their family, in their community, sometimes in their state, over something they can't control. Many would push a button to change it if they could. They can't, any more than you or I can. Brene Brown said, shame is the fear of disconnection. Don't let that fear happen here in Idaho. We're better than that. Let's be better than that. But it's intolerant of my religious beliefs, right? As a Christian, my Bible says that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life, that no man comes into the Father except through him. So I hire somebody and later overhear a conversation and find out that he's Hindu. He's an actively practicing Hindu, which clearly goes against my religious beliefs. I can fire him, right? Well, no, I can't. Why? Because the choice he's made to become Hindu is protected by the Idaho Human Rights Act. An effect of passing the First Amendment was that the pastors were protected in their own right to choose religion as well. I had to realize that even though being Hindu is a choice and being gay is not, I should not fire an employee if he or she is a good worker. Members of the LGBT population around the state really don't have a choice here today. We've known that since the American Psychological Association first told us, but you do. Make the choice to keep good workers and good jobs here in Idaho. Make the choice to allow businesses to thrive because they have a culture of trust, not a culture of fear or shame for this demographic. Make the choice to help our economy grow. Make that choice. And when you do, you'll go to bed at night breathing a sigh of relief. You'll go to bed knowing you did the right thing. You'll go to bed knowing you live in a state full of people who will not discriminate against one of their own who is a good employee. You'll go to bed knowing that you made Idaho a safer, better place where our workers can thrive. Thank you.
Are there questions? Thank you. Chick Hylas, then Kevin Snell, and then
My name's Chick Hylas, and I'm from
just
Iona,
a second, let me
Idaho.
give me one more here.
Okay.
Cammie, I'm not going to try, Cammie from Coeur d'Alene, I'm not going to try to say your last name off the sheet, so. Remind you that we have about 10 minutes before we have to report upstairs, so make it as brief as you possibly can.
I'll do that. I'm here representing myself. I'm an employer, have been for a number of years. My belief is that basically we're all God's children, and I think we should all be treated as such. And I grew up in a little town near Iona, and I've seen lots of discrimination in my years. Even I was discriminated when I was a little kid because I was not from the town of Iona. I came from outside, and I was chided, clothes stole, and stuff like that for years. And as I grew up, they quit that, and those people that were mean to me became some of my best friends. And I've been in business for off and on for 30 years. I've really never asked anybody or known anybody that I've employed up to 13 at a time, many people, and have never had never knew if I ever hired anybody of a different persuasion than or sexual persuasion or anything like that. And I've fired people. I've also been in the military, and I've seen discrimination there. Before the Civil Rights Act was passed, I had friends in the military that we would go into establishments and they were not allowed in there. So I've seen those kind of things. I did a tour in Vietnam, and even the people that we were there to protect were discriminated against by our own troops. They called them gooks and treated them as low-class citizens. And I've seen edicts come down from the military that how we're supposed to treat people. Those that wanted to discriminate, discriminated. I have been an employer and done things like that, and I have seen lots of discrimination. I have friends that don't like black people. I have friends that don't like other kinds of people, obese people. And you can pass a law, and it won't change the heart of those people. Only me and you can do that with each other. There's no way that a law will create those kind of things. I know from my experience that just in my personal life that I don't know, I guess you could call it a problem with discrimination. And I think it comes from others who did it and you wanted to play along in my younger years. But no law would have changed that for me. I just believe that we have to learn to get along with each other, not by force. And so I urge you to vote against this law because those laws that I've seen against this have not stopped it completely. It goes underground. Thank you.
Are there questions? Thank you.